Coming up, Native languages and AI. We hear about a new effort using technology to teach. We head to Southampton, New York for a story on economic development project Little Beach Harvest. And days after the Iowa Caucus, we're speaking with ICT regular contributor John Tahsuda about former President Donald Trump's leading win. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Support for the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez comes from the Arizona PBS studios in Phoenix at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Arizona State University.
Amadawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. I am Aaliyah Chavez. We start today in California, where a newly introduced bill would require public schools to teach the true history of Native Americans in the state if it is passed into law. Every school year, students spend a good portion of their history classes learning about the Spanish missions and the California Gold Rush. The idea of Assembly Bill 1821 is to incorporate the treatment of Indigenous people during those time periods to factually state that Native people were enslaved, starved, and killed. The legislation was introduced by Assemblymember James Ramos, who is the only Native American serving in the state's legislature. It is still very early in the California legislative session, with ample time for movement to be made on this bill. Well, the U.S. Department of Justice is set to release its investigation findings on the Phoenix Police Department any day now. ICT's Daniel Herrera is taking a look at the Phoenix PD and what it is doing to reform itself, especially in its work with Indigenous people.
A 2-year investigation into the Phoenix PD is coming to an end. That's after the Department of Justice started their investigation into the Phoenix Police Department in 2021 to see whether or not Phoenix PD uses excessive force, including deadly force, engages in discriminatory policing practices, and retaliates against individuals engaged in protests or demonstrations. With Phoenix having the 3rd largest Native population in the U.S., it is important that we know what the Phoenix Police Department is doing to reform itself.
We released a report today that's over 50 pages that highlights the reforms that we've done in this department since 2015. So we've done and accelerated those reforms in the last year, including a new use of force policy, and you'll see continuing reforms to come out. But it's a comprehensive report that's out there, and I think it's important for folks to look it up and look at the effort that we've put into reforming the police department.
From 2013 to 2021, Phoenix was the deadliest police force in the nation. In 2023, there were 25 officer-involved shootings. Interim Police Chief Sullivan said this is due to confronting high levels of violence.
You can, when you talk about that statistic, you can talk about it a lot of different ways. We also have a high level of violence that officers have had to confront, and officers who have been shot in the line of duty.
According to a 2023 police violence report by Mapping Police Violence, 9 people in Phoenix were killed in situations where the person was not reportedly threatening anyone with a gun. According to Mapping Police Violence, more than 20 Native Americans were killed between 2013 and 2023. Aside of this, Phoenix has had a history of falling short in its treatment of protesters exercising their First Amendment rights, such as with the challenge coin, which is circulated around the police department.
That kind of misconduct has no place in a police department. It was wrong on every level. Misconduct needs to be identified. All the people who engage in it need to be identified. And a thorough investigation needs to take place, and people need to be punished.
For the challenge incident, former Police Chief Jerry Williams only received a letter of reprimand and was suspended for a day. In Phoenix, Arizona, Daniel Herrera, ICT News.
We turn now to Washington State for a story that's really 2 stories in one. It's an economic development story about a tribe opening a new business, but it's also a story about a Native nation securing its connection with a sacred relative. Stewart Huntington has more from the Puyallup Nation.
Along the waterfront in Tacoma, Washington, the Puyallup Tribe recently bought a large building for use as a fish buying and processing plant.
This is an important facility for the tribe because it's all about being self-sufficient. In today's, the processing of salmon, it's difficult to get our fish taken care of, almost everywhere. And so, by having the right mindset of the people and leadership that were thinking about the need of the tribe, that's where we're at today. We worked diligently to make sure we had a funding source, and this became available. It was an produce facility. It's 11,800 square feet. And in this facility, it has everything that we need as a beginning point, but we can take this facility and modify it to the need of the tribe today.
With the new facility, the tribe can create a fair marketplace for tribal producers.
They kind of started this program to help our fishermen. They're kind of getting jacked around with price, so we kind of started it to basically compete with the price with the other guys, so they raise the price and our fishermen get a fair price.
The tribe plans to expand the business in part into retail sales through its network of convenience stores, but the aims are not all commercial. Salmon is sacred in the community, and the new facility will help ensure tribal access.
The whole reason why the tribe feels that it's really important to do this is because for many, many years, this has been something that's traditional for our people to have this source of food. So it's important to make sure that there's enough of this here kept so that with the depreciation of each and every one of our fish in our rivers, it's important to preserve these here and be able to have that traditional food for our people.
Stewart Huntington, ICT News.
We head now to Washington, D.C. On Politics Wednesday, we're talking about Donald Trump's presidential run and the controversy he has been embroiled in. ICT political correspondent Pauly Denetclaw has this interview with John Tahsuda. Our ICT regular contributor is a principal with Navigators Global.
Hello, John. Welcome back to the newscast.
Thank you for having me.
So first, can you talk a little bit about Trump's win in the Iowa caucuses, and what this means for the election?
So a pretty resounding victory for him. In fact, it's my understanding that this is for a contested caucus, meaning more than like an incumbent president, that this is the highest vote total that a candidate has received. I think there's still they still may be determining the final outcomes of a few of them, but it looks like he may actually have won every single county caucus in the state. So that's a pretty resounding victory, and certainly is a rejection, I think, of Mr. DeSantis. He put a lot of time and money into Iowa, and came in, I believe, a very distant second, and just ahead, or maybe statistically tied with Nikki Haley for second place, but far, far behind Mr. Trump.
And in the headlines, all we see are talks about the criminal cases against former President Donald Trump. And could you talk a little bit about these cases and also differing them from sort of the January 6th that also went on and is currently a part of the election when it comes to these 14th Amendment? And so just creating that distinction between the criminal cases for us.
Certainly. So I think that the criminal cases going on do include a criminal case involving the January 6th events. But in addition to that, there are actions being taken in various states to try to keep him off the ballot. I think it's important to distinguish between those. The criminal cases are again, arising out of things like handling of documents, secure documents. That's an interesting case in that The case is focused on Mr. Trump's activities following the end of his presidency. So it's unclear, I think, the extent that his handling or mishandling of those documents was significantly worse than prior presidents, or just a little bit worse. I think we don't really quite know that yet, but potentially may have violated the subpoena and actually violated federal law and being untruthful to federal agents. I think the latest case I read, there are some 90 actions actually filed against him, if you include civil actions, et cetera, all around in different states, et cetera. In the January 6th case as well, out of Washington, D.C., obviously that's a significant one as well. It's we're sort of in new territory here. This is the first time that a presidential candidate, much less a former president, has been actually indicted, and they are proceeding with criminal cases against him. So I think there's both sort of some constitutional questions. Again, we've never been through this, so it's not something that our courts have precedent on. And the challenge with all of this is that we are now in an election year, and he is a candidate, and he's not a fringe candidate. Looking at the Iowa caucuses that we just talked about, he is supported by virtually every category of Republican voter. So that brings a lot of political pressure onto both federal prosecutors who are trying to make these cases against him, and the courts that are hearing them. And again, plowing new ground here to have a candidate, who without these cases is either ahead or neck and neck in polling pre-election, and to attempt to remove that candidate from an election is a very serious matter. And the pace of these cases would normally put them to not be resolved until late in the year or even the next year, after he may be potentially elected. But there's a lot of scholars who say there's nothing barring a president from pardoning himself. And so even if he gets convicted, does that mean he can pardon himself? And at the end of the day, that doesn't terminate his presidency, right? So the real question, I think, would be, would it have an impact if he were convicted prior to the actual election? And some of those questions turn on what type of federal official he is. I'm not a constitutional scholar, particularly in this area, but I do recall that there have been congressmen and others who are federal officials, elected officials, who were unable to run on a ballot once they were convicted of a crime. But there is some discussion that I read as to whether the president is one of those types of federal officials, or is he a different type? Fascinating academic questions, but the real world impact is unprecedented for our country.
And it does seem that there are still a lot of questions swirling around this issue, and we will continue to stay updated with you. John, thank you so much for being on the newscast.
Thank you.
Tribes across the country are returning to plant-based medicines, and the Shinnecock Nation is turning this trend into a retail opportunity to serve the people. ICT's Shirley Sneve has this interview.
The Shinnecock Nation in New York is one of the latest tribes to operate a cannabis dispensary. Little Beach Harvest opened its doors in November. Shanae Bullock is its managing director.
To see tribal brands in here, but also other brands that have been truly supportive to Little Beach Harvest. I think most people have been pretty educated since we've been open for the last 3 years. This isn't my first time being on Indian Country Today. The difficulty and challenges to operate a tribal cannabis business, which is extremely highly regulated, but we were able to do it underneath our sovereign jurisdiction and underneath our own sovereign laws. And that, to me, is a tremendous success. And that took 8 years to be able to do that. And so I'm just truly, really honored to have been chosen to be in this position.
What was the impetus behind creating this business for the tribe?
A gentleman by the name of Barry here, came to the tribe, came to our chairman back in 2014. And he really, has been in Indian country and communicating with other tribes that were doing this on their reservations. But he was really interested because of the use of cannabis, really the medicinal side of it, for the elders, our elder care. Throughout Indian country, we honor and value our elders because they are our wisdom keepers. They keep that wisdom and they pass that down. And, in the pharmaceutical market, we are losing a lot of elders. The health benefits that we lack in Indian country is significantly high. The health disparities that we have, the pandemic alone showed that. So this really stemmed from that kind of concern with the medical use of cannabis. And so we passed our medical ordinance after the tribe came to vote on this back in 2015. And since then, we had worked really together to structure a business to be able to dispense, grow, manufacture, and distribute cannabis. And so going fast forward to 2023, we've had a handful of different kinds of partners, investors that have had expertise and knowledge in operating a business like this. And so where we were able to come in is really being able to utilize our relationships throughout Indian country to see what worked with them, what didn't work. And so we created a board. We created like a regulatory board that created the regulations. And they are the ones that had the application process. And that's how we got our medical license and our adult use license to be able to be operational here today.
I think there's still a stigma around cannabis as a agent, as a medicine, really. What are some of the issues that it helps elders with?
Is that there's been a lot of chronic pain with a lot of our elders specifically. A lot of people, not just elders in Indian country, a lot of people are wanting to get back to plant-based medicines in general, whether that's eucalyptus, lavender, sassafras. So I think it really is starting a lot of times with the salves and the topicals is really a big thing. But also with the stress and anxiety and the worry that, some of our elders also have, due to, things that are happening within our communities. We lost a lot of people during the pandemic, but the educational component is what we want to provide too, so that they're not abusing, just taking like a bunch of gummies. You got to learn like the dosage that you're supposed to have. And some gummies need to be more vegan, so that there's not a lot of sugar. There's a lot of those kind of things. We're intentionally finding those kind of brands and putting them in this store here. So,
well, Shanae Bullock, the managing director of Little Beach Harvest, thank you very much for joining us on the ICT Newscast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Tabutne.
We turn now to the future of Native languages. We check in with Michael Runningwolf, the co-founder of FLAIR. It's a unique effort using artificial intelligence to preserve Indigenous languages and at the same time using Native languages to influence artificial intelligence.
First Languages AI Reality, or FLAIR, is an initiative to create community-centered technology for language education for Indigenous, with the goal of language reclamation for languages in North America. Most languages in North America are endangered, in the United States particularly so. We have, with 70% of our languages, like probably within the next 5 to 10 years may go to sleep without significant change into how we're teaching these languages and how we're reintegrating these languages across the United States. And the goal is to create advanced technology for second language acquisition using artificial intelligence and virtual reality as our methodology. The languages in North America and the United States represent our way of thinking. Number one, these are our identities, how we conceptualize our interactions with each other as humans and also with our interaction with our environment. For example, Nuchanuth, which is a language in the Northwest, they don't have their concept of a tree is the landholder. And who owns the land? It's the tree. And so when you think of it that way, conceptually, it doesn't make sense to chop down trees because you're killing the landowner, the landholder. And these views are represented best in our Indigenous languages. Like, for example, in Cheyenne, my mother's tribe, we're not even allowed to stab the land. And so embedded within our language and our culture and our spirituality is this view that the environment is innately sacred and is more important than our individual lives. And so we have, as people, and this is true for other communities across the United States, have thrown ourselves to the protection of our land. I was there at the No DAPL pipeline protests in North Dakota, and amongst the many other tribes, and I was in tribal, and I think our land and our languages and our culture is so intertwined with our land that it's important. And that in itself is important, is worth protecting these and reclaiming these languages, but also from a scientific perspective, these languages are not researched very well, particularly by machine learning technology. And I believe that if we collectively as Indigenous peoples were to harness the knowledge embedded within our languages and the unique morphology and the unique scientific properties of our languages, we could actually advance the field of machine learning and artificial intelligence. We're not studying Indigenous languages simply because of history. The federal government had a very aggressive program of exterminating our culture. And as a result, Western society doesn't value Indigenous languages the way we, the people, do it. And I think it's necessary that we do the research, because only we can make sure that it's done ethically and responsibly. So right now we're working with 3 to 5 languages, and we're really working on solving some key foundational, basic technological challenges with working with combining AI and making AI work for Indigenous languages. And it is unresearched. In 5 years, I'm hoping that we're able to scale to hundreds of languages, being able to work with solving technical challenges that will enable AI for hundreds of languages across North America, and be beginning to start thinking about the other 7,000 languages across the world. There's 7,000 languages in the world, and we only probably have a couple of dozen that has AI built for them, the typical German, French, English, Cantonese. And if you're not one of those languages, you don't have AI for it. And I believe in 5 years, we could start beginning to enable this technology ethically across other communities.
Languages are among our most valued resources. Ensuring that they are preserved and taught is important in Indigenous communities and here at ICT. So we're bringing you a new segment called Language Breaks. They will feature speakers from across Turtle Island sharing their beautiful and bold words and phrases. To start us off, we bring you a taste of Ojibwe from the Red Lake Nation in Minnesota.
Ganabutchwi Minogishiga Noongum. Perhaps today will be a good day. Ganabutchwi Minogishiga Noongum. The word Ganabutch is talking about maybe or perhaps. We is a future tense. Minnow, talking about something good. And Gishiga means day. And then our word Noongum is today. Putting it all together, Ganabutchwi Minogishiga Noongum. Perhaps today will be a good day.
We turn our energy now to reflect on the life of a groundbreaking Native journalist whose impact on Indigenous media spans decades. Earlier this week, Muskogee Media reported that Gary Fife has died. Nicknamed the voice of Muskogee Nation Radio, I interviewed him in September of 2021 about his career. Take a look.
I hit college right at the peak of the civil rights movement here in the United States, and watching all of the activities going on around the nation with different minority people stepping forward. And I personally was wondering, where is the Native American presence in this movement? I also felt, of course, that since we have a federal relationship that no one else has, ours would be different, our presence. So I wanted to be a part of that, and I felt making a positive move for Native American people in the presentation of our information. Now, up till then, many of the Native publications and other journalistic efforts were what I would call advocacy, which is fine, which is wonderful and it's needed. But I was in school to learn journalism, and I kept feeling that we needed a balanced report on these particular issues and people. In other words, both sides of the story. So that's what got me involved as a writer and photographer, and in my own way, an advocate. Video used to be a lot of scenes where either it was the beautiful native dancers at the powwow or it was the drunks. And I think you probably run across that in your life. But now we're seeing more of our own people step forward and take control of these stories and present them in a much more wonderful fashion. And that affects the mainstream media too. They're paying attention. I've even seen Indian Country Today quoted as a source for a story that aired here locally. So, that's kind of wonderful. They're taking us seriously, and I think that future is really bright.
Gary Fife was the host for National Native News and First Person Radio. He was 73 years old. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.